Hello everybody, welcome to the Paula Mavers Show on awakeradio.co.uk. Thank you.
You're listening to awakeradio.us, awakeradio.co.uk, and shazizradio.com. Hi, I'm Paula, and this is Paula Live. Hello, I have a really interesting guest for you today, and unfortunately he was supposed to come on before with us and wasn't able to. He's going to be here for the second hour of the show, and his name is Charles Strange. It's generally known by military insiders and others that Osama bin Laden died of natural causes in 2001. He had returned to Pakistan from Dubai following medical treatment at an American hospital. What the world's been told about the death of Osama bin Laden is pitiful and laughable, absurd, especially the parts about no forensic tests having been being performed and his body being quickly dumped into the sea. The charade in Abbottabad was one of the massive psyop to provide soothing peace of mind for the American public subject to full-throttle media propaganda while continuing unabatedly one of the greatest, deadliest, and most expensive hoaxes of all time, 9/11 and the War on Terror.
Come, you masters of war, you that build all the gods, you that build the death planes, you that build all the bombs, you that hide behind walls, you that hide behind desks. I just want you to know I can see through your mask. You that never done nothing but built to destroy. You play with my world like it's your little toy. You put a gun in his hand and you hide from his eyes, and you turn and run farther when the fast bullets fly. Like Judas of old, you lie and deceive. A world war can be won, you want me to believe, but I see through your eyes and I see through your brain, like I see through the water that runs down my drain. You fasten all the triggers for the others to fire. Then you sit back and watch when the death count gets higher. You hide in your mansion as young people's blood flows out of their bodies and is buried in the mud. You've thrown the worst fear that can never be heard. Fear to bring children into the world, for threatening my baby, unborn and unnamed. You ain't worth the blood that runs in your veins. How much do I know to talk out of turn? You might say that I'm young, you might say But there's one thing I know, though I'm younger than you, that even Jesus would never forgive what you do. Let me ask you one question. Is your money that good? Will it buy you forgiveness? Do you think that it could? And I think you will find when your death takes its toll, all the money you made will never buy back your soul. And I hope that you die, and your death will come soon. I will follow your casket on a pale afternoon, and I'll watch while you're lowered down into your deathbed, and I'll stand over your grave till I'm sure that you're dead.
SEAL Team 6 was being credited for taking out Osama bin Laden. It's a crazy day. Sorry about that. A lot of mess ups on my talking today. Because it is such an emotional thing, these families are left with a lot of question, and we were hit with a lot of propaganda all this time when the so-called death of bin Laden took place. And then something major happened, and we were hit with another type of propaganda.
Taliban is taking responsibility for shooting down a U.S. helicopter. More than 30 people were killed, and there are reports this morning that most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
So devastating, this news, and especially after that news in May that SEALs were able to kill Osama bin Laden in a raid. Today's crash, and they do believe it was from enemy fire, possibly a rocket-propelled grenade. They believe it was shot down right after an operation. This was in Wardak province. Now, I also want to add that the first person to say these were U.S. Special Operations Forces was Hamid Karzai, the president of Afghanistan. He released a written statement sending his condolences for the loss of those troops in the Afghan forces as well. But he was the first to say Special Operations Forces, and we did confirm through a senior military official they were Navy SEALs. This, as you know, beyond a very, very small community of these highly trained elite U.S. forces. This is the single largest loss of life in Afghanistan in a single incident since this war began.
And at least 31 U.S. Special Forces troops were killed. U.S. officials confirmed that most of them are members of the U.S. Navy's elite SEAL teams, and they believe the helicopter was shot down. Straight to Washington, D.C. now, and our Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr. Barbara, any new details about that helicopter crash? What do the officials think happened?
Well, indeed, Joe. At this point, 22 Navy SEALs have lost their lives. Many of them, most of them, we are told, members of the same overall unit, the covert unit of Navy SEALs that went after Osama bin Laden. Many of them, most of them, we are told, members of the same overall unit, the covert unit of Navy SEALs that went after Osama bin Laden, not the same exact commandos. They have run a name check.
And so shortly after taking office, I directed Leon Panetta, the director of the CIA, to make the killing or capture of bin Laden the top priority of our war against al-Qaeda. A small team of Americans carried out the operation with extraordinary courage and capability. No Americans were harmed. They took care to avoid civilian casualties. After a firefight, they killed Osama bin Laden and took custody of his body. For over 2 decades, bin Laden has been al-Qaeda's leader and symbol, and has continued to plot attacks against our country and our friends and allies. The death of bin Laden marks the most significant achievement to date in our nation's effort to defeat al-Qaeda. Yet his death does not mark the end of our effort. There's no doubt that al-Qaeda will continue to pursue attacks against us. We must, and we will, remain vigilant at home and abroad.
On a near moonless night, packed into two specially outfitted Black Hawk helicopters, the most elite Navy Special Operations Team, SEAL Team 6, handpicked and experienced, headed for the mission of their lives. The target, this sprawling compound surrounded by walls reaching nearly 20 feet high at points. The SEAL team, 30 to 40 men, flew low beneath the radar and undetected in the darkness, descending on the compound. The plan was to rappel from the helicopters, but one of the Black Hawks stalled, forcing a white-knuckle hard landing outside the compound.
We are very good at making it up on our feet because something will always go wrong.
The SEALs then moving quickly and quietly toward the compound. They began a room-by-room search in a smaller building first, where they found the wives and children of two of bin Laden's trusted couriers. Next, the larger complex, where gunfire erupted. Two men, bin Laden's couriers, were shot dead. On the ground, now nearly 40 minutes, the SEALs climbed the stairs to the upper floors, and there he was, staring right at them. Those deadly brown eyes, the beard, a man well over 6 feet tall. This had to be bin Laden. The SEALs shouted for bin Laden to surrender. He resisted. They aimed straight for his head, giving the weapon a double tap of the trigger, as they are trained to do, to ensure they got him. At least one of the bullets entered just above his left eye. While a group of SEALs searched the house, grabbing computer hard drives and whatever else they could find, others grabbed bin Laden's body, carrying it through the compound and loading it onto the helicopter. Left behind, bin Laden's wounded wife. The SEAL team had practiced this mission in the last month, even having a replica of the compound built in the U.S., where they trained for every possible contingency.
Some people even finding it amusing that America's most wanted fugitive, the man behind the September 11th attacks in the United States, was here in their town of Abbottabad. Now, I'm actually here with an eyewitness by the name of Jahangir Khan. Jahangir, if you could just stand right here for me. Jahangir, in the early hours of the morning, you heard some explosions. Tell me what you saw.
Actually, I was almost awake, actually, 1 o'clock. I was talking to my friend in UK online and Skype, and I hear the helicopter was moving. And I was talking to my wife, what's happening? And we were a little bit scary. We came out, and I have seen the helicopter. I went top of my roof, and because it was totally dark, there was no lights, but I have seen them. It was, I think it was a Apache helicopter. So they was moving around 12 o'clock. Then they start firing a few minutes. Then they came again, few minutes firing. Then around 1 o'clock, we went inside. We thought, I don't know what's happening. Then by 1 o'clock, we went inside. And then 1:15, we hear the explosion, like big noise. Then we scared and we came out we jumped outside from the house, and we saw all the people was going up to then we went up. Then I hear the people was crying there somewhere, then we run there because my cousin is living there, right? It's 5 minutes walk if I run from my house to there. Then we run there, me and my brother and a few other people. We run there, but when we went there was all fire going on. It was nothing. And then army came over, they took over. We were there until 4 o'clock.
Okay, so you woke up in the morning and then you heard the news. It was an assault carried out by the United States in which they captured and killed Osama bin Laden. What did you think when you heard the news?
When I came back at 4 o'clock from there to my house, I opened the news and this says about Osama bin Laden. I was shocked. And to be honest, I'm living here all my life. And you know that if somebody new comes in your street, in your area, you always know. Like somebody is, you can feel them, you can see the movement. I ever seen anything like that. I can't believe that. I can't believe that.
You know, a lot of people in your neighborhood have said that they were suspicious about this house. Was there anything about this house that you found suspicious, that you found strange about?
To be honest, I always go in the evening, walk from my house to the same house where they said the Osama bin Laden. The next house is my other house, which I rented to my cousin friend. And every day in the evening we went there by walk with my wife for just walking. I never seen anything like that, and that's why I can't believe that. And to be honest, it's not true. Osama, maybe some other people, but Osama is not the bird who came flying, went to the inside, because this is restricted area. When we came out from outside to come here, to always army will say, oh, where's your ID card? So it's not unbelievable.
Right. Thank you very much.
The man who murdered Osama bin Laden, Now I know that having dealings with people does not necessarily mean that.
Yes, we can now confirm that about an hour and a half ago, John, Osama bin Laden was buried at sea. We're told by a senior U.S. official that he was the only of the 4 bodies at the compound, the 4 people killed at the compound. He was the only person who was taken away, and that body has now been buried at sea. We can confirm that.
There was talk about possibly calling up Saudi Arabia and saying, do you want to bury him in his home country, possibly calling Afghanistan or Pakistan, but the fear was that if you put Osama bin Laden in the ground, he becomes, his burial site becomes a shrine and an attraction and maybe a lightning rod for the people who believe the same way he does. So by burying him at sea, the Pentagon is hoping to forestall any kind of hero.
What we can tell is this helicopter went down in the central eastern province of the country. This area has been a long, restive, and violent area, and we've seen an uptick in violence from Taliban insurgent attacks throughout the region, both in the east and in the south. From what we can tell, a NATO helicopter carrying U.S. Special Forces and 7 Afghans were traveling in this region when they came under fire from Taliban insurgents. From Taliban sources that we've spoken to, in addition to local sources on the ground, it appears that these insurgents fired rocket-propelled grenades, which in effect had downed this NATO helicopter. Now, again, the U.S. military here in Afghanistan is being very tight-lipped in terms of their detailed accounts of what transpired. They will say that this helicopter went down. They will confirm that insurgents were in the area. However, some of the other information we're getting is from local sources. So again, a lot of violence here today in Afghanistan, and perhaps the deadliest day for U.S. soldiers since the war began in 2001.
Yeah, I don't know how much to read into this, and cut me off if I'm stretching, but Taliban forces took down a Chinook helicopter, 2 weeks ago? Now another helicopter is down by the Taliban. Russian forces had to leave Afghanistan in part because the mujahideen they were facing got so adept at bringing down their helicopters. Did the Taliban just get lucky 2 weeks in a row, or is there something more worrying going on here?
It's a good question. It's hard to say. The Taliban and troops in this area certainly have a history of fighting off foreign helicopters with shoulder-mounted weapons. The question of where those weapons come from is a particularly interesting question, and it opens up a range of discussion. What we see, though, is that it's sort of an uptick in some of these areas by use of these weapons. Like you mentioned, a NATO helicopter was down just last month. Fortunately, in that incident, no one was killed. This incident is not certainly the case. Now, again, what we have to make mention of is that this comes at a critical moment of transition, just as NATO forces are beginning to draw down and handing over security to local and national forces. The question then remains, can local and national forces really take on a resurgent Taliban if that's what we're looking at?
Looking back over all the propaganda coming through, it's really amazing how you can kind of see how they are setting up as they go along so that they can show you what you think about this. Each little segment has a reason that I played it. And helicopter coming over now. Military, that's nice. Stay tuned. You'll be hearing from Charles Strange. His son was killed. He was part of this elite team. More about SEAL Team 6. The families of SEAL Team 6 are seeking justice. They assert that the Obama administration is covering up many details surrounding the death of their family members. The truth must be told. On May 9th, 2013, they held a press conference at the National Press Club.
And I just thank you for coming out today. But I know you're here only because my son has died. But thank you so much for being here. Before Benghazi, there was Extortion 17. Saturday, August 6, 2011 was a day that changed the lives of my family forever. It was the day we learned our son Aaron and other American warriors had lost their lives in a helo crash in Afghanistan, Wardak Province, Tangi River Valley. It would quickly become known as the largest loss in the history of naval special warfare, and the largest one-day loss in the history in our now 11-and-a-half-year-old war against Islamic Jihad. What is strange is that the military was allowed to do an in-house investigation with few questions asked by the media. And even we learned two very important things that day. The Spec Op forces were flying that night on a CH-47D Chinook chopper. And let me say, by the way, when Aaron was a SEAL, he said, "Dad, you won't believe the choppers we fly in. They're like nothing I've ever seen." But do you know what? My son wasn't on that chopper that night. You know why? Because President Barack Obama had increased the special op missions. An average in 2009. This is straight from the military. It's straight from the information we were given. In 2009, an average of 56 per month. Increased in 2010 to an average of 186 special op missions per month. And Karen, if I get too loud, tell me, okay? From August of 2010 until July of 2011, 1 month before the shootdown of Extortion 17, the number of spec op missions in Afghanistan, according to our military, was an average of 334 per month. I know that's hard to believe. Check it and make sure I'm telling you the truth. And Brigadier General Jeffrey Colt, who oversaw the investigation of the shootdown of Extortion 17, made this statement in his report. While the number of strike forces was increased to accommodate the operations, the number of spec op aviation was not. You know why it was not? Because it is not available. We have 61 MH-47s available to us. And yes, I said that to the military that day, and he said, "Sir, your numbers are correct." And according to a high-ranking admiral, "Billy, if we have 60 MH-47s, we're only allowed 20 in theater at one time. 20 must be down for maintenance and 20 for training." Let me tell you something. If my son had gone in on an MH-47 that night with guns blazing and they'd been shot out of the sky, it'd be a whole lot easier to live with. If the air weapons teams overhead were offering suppressive fire because a 3.5-hour operation was already underway in the valley, it'd be a whole lot easier to live with. But you know why we were not? Because according to at the debriefing that day, we want to win the hearts and minds of the enemy. Aaron Vaughn did not become a Navy SEAL, Team 6 Gold Squad, to win the hearts and the minds of the Islamic jihadists. He became a Navy SEAL to fight for this republic and defeat the enemy. And I'll tell you right now, any American flag officer who does not want to defeat the enemy needs to find another job. Any man who sits in that White House who does not want to defeat the enemy of this republic needs to step down. And any vice president who goes around speaking gaffes after time needs to be accountable. Just like the man who played the video at Benghazi. Where's that guy today? I'm sorry, I got off track, Larry. That day at the debriefing, we left with two questions. Why were they not right on the right chopper? And why did they not shoot down the enemy when the RPGs were fired? Where's my letter? Oh my gosh, I lost it. I've got a big problem here. I had a letter with me from Congressman Tom Rooney. After the shoot down, I called numerous congressmen. Congressman Boehner, no response. Senator Reid, no response. Congressman Allen West, response immediately and help. Congressman Stephen Fincher from Tennessee, response immediately and help. Congressman Tom Rooney, who was then our congressman in our district, and help. Senator Carl Levin, chairman of the Arms and Services Committee, I believe I got that right, in the Senate. I called him. I called him numerous times, told them who I was, who my son was, what had happened. They told me to quit harassing the senator. Thank you, Senator Levin. Congressman Rooney, many weeks later, his office called, said the congressman is going to a high-ranking military, visit with some high-ranking military officials in Washington, a classified meeting, to get your questions about why they were on the wrong chopper and why they did not take out the people who fired the RPGs that night. We were told at the debriefing that they did not take because of the rules of engagement and we're not allowed to do that. We were told that the families were several times that day. I told that to Congressman Rooney. I told it to Congressman West. Congressman Rooney wrote me a letter back after he went to that meeting that stated, Mr. Vaughn, it was not, I was told at the classified meeting, it was not because of the rules of engagement we didn't take out the men who fired the RPGs. It was because we didn't know where the shots came from. That crushed me because I knew it was a lie. I knew it was a lie. I immediately called, I'm sorry, I didn't immediately call. For several days I thought, what do I do next? What do I do next? I let the letter lay there. Finally, I called SOCOM. A JAG officer who had been over the investigation, who had told us, the families, more than once. This is because of the rules of engagement. I asked him again to tell me about the night. He described it in detail, in fact, in more detail. The shots came from a tower, a turret above a building. We did not fire back because of the rules of engagement and because there may be friendlies in the building. I called a high-ranking admiral. Told him what Congressman Rooney had been told. I said, sir, were we told the truth at the debriefing? He said, you heard it, Billy, just like I did. I don't know why they would say that. When you hide the truth, you become part of the lie. The more questions, this is when Karen and I began to investigate, the more questions we asked, or a 1 in a million shot, as the military had called it. Many steps and actions were necessary for the loss of Extortion 17, just as they were for the failure at Benghazi. The record will show that the Islamists are responsible for the deaths of the Americans, but I submit to you today that the U.S. government and many high-ranking military people own more credit for the shoot-down than the Taliban. Political correctness, building the esteem of the Afghans, leveling of the playing field, and failure by the Obama administration to name the enemy and to accurately identify the savage ideology our warriors are up against has made an otherwise primitive foe formidable. You saw the video. A ceremony of honor for our warriors made wretched and despicable as their bodies were desecrated by an imam. If someone lets a fox into a chicken house and it kills all the chickens, is the fox to blame? I say no. We know what a fox will do in the chicken house. We know what an imam will do. So I do not blame the imam today. The imam is the imam. I blame the American and the high-ranking military officials who let this man speak and mock Jehovah God, the God of my son and of my family. Those responsible for this must be brought to justice.
Those of you that know me very well know that I am completely against war and everything it stands for. And some think that means that I do not have respect for servicemen around the world, and that's not true. I know that many of them take the job because there's no other jobs available, and it's a way to do that. And I also know that a majority of them are doing it because they really think this is a way to help fight off any invasions and to protect the freedoms of the country and things like that. They've been told all their life. They've learned through school. And no, I do not dehumanize them at all. What I'm trying to do right now, I planned some of this for the family before Charles Strange come on live, is show you, you can say SEAL Team 6 members died, and you can think of them, what comes to mind when you talk about Special Forces and SEAL Team, all those movies and things you've seen on TV of men, their faces covered, they're in camouflage of one type or the other. But what I'm trying to show is these are young men, and each one had moms and dads and an idea of what they had gone in to do, and it ends up in a fight for just knowing and what they know, and things were going down. And I don't want to get too far in this without Mr. Strange. I'm going to get to continue the interview. Thank you.
This administration apparently went to extreme efforts to make sure that the enemy, Osama bin Laden, had a proper burial. Our president was outraged when the Qurans were burned. But then, those who die for the Republic, this is allowed to go on. To steal their First Amendment rights, to steal their religious rights, to be violated by Islam. General Votel, it is sad. It is sad that our troops are under your command. It is sad, General. After the Imam damned our American warriors, you stood and talked about how we're one, about how we're brothers. General Votel, it is sad. If you know, it is even more sad if you are still ignorant about what the Imam is and what Islamist jihadists are doing to us. Mr. Obama, President Obama, you need to step up or step down. You must step up, President Obama, and defend our warriors. You must step up and show the outrage that you have shown when the religion of Islam is disrespected. You must step up and defend our warriors. President Obama, your silence will be your consent. I tell you today, we have sheep and wolves in high places, and they are getting our sheepdogs killed unnecessarily. But I will also tell you today that no plan of hell or scheme of man can separate Aaron Vaughn from the love of God that is in Jesus Christ, our Lord. Not the Imam or Washington, D.C. Aaron's God is the God in the Bible who is referred to as the Lord of hosts. He's the God of all gods. That is the God that my son, by the way, my son lives today with that God because of the shed blood of Jesus Christ. 5 terror attacks have happened under President Obama's watch. 5 terror attacks on U.S. soil. All 5 had one thing in common. Islam. Danger. Get everything off your social media, Mom. Our families are in danger because of what has happened. Then, in the military testimony that we have, by May 11, the military says, Intel knew that over 100 Taliban fighters were moving in to the Tangi River Valley to shoot down, to give an extraordinary effort to shoot down an American helicopter loaded with American warriors. Still, our military did nothing extra to stop this. By the time that Aaron deployed in June, Karen and I knew that Aaron and these men would be working in the Tangi River Valley, warred-out province of Afghanistan. We knew, apparently it's very possible that the Taliban knew. As Larry told you, Karen, in the military testimony, 7 Afghan that night are not the same names who were on the manifest. In a meeting with a high-ranking admiral, I said something about this, said it must not be a big deal. The man with him said, Mr. Vaughn, it's a very big deal because it was passed over. He said it's a very big deal. That should never happen. In fact, after the crash, we had to notify the families of the men we thought were on the chopper, re-notify them and tell them that their sons were okay. He said the reason why they were not on the chopper is at the last moment a commander changed his mind about the Afghans he wanted on the chopper. I didn't think to ask the right questions that day, but a few days later, as it weighed in my mind, what commander? Was this a commander on the chopper with Aaron? Was this a commander on the ground? Was it an Afghan commander? Was it a commander out of theater? Where was the commander? I called SOCOM again, talked to the same guy, asked him those questions. The man who was there a month over the investigation. He said, Mr. Vaughn, we didn't know about the swap. Nobody told us. It's very puzzling to me. Very puzzling. Larry, I'm almost done. What is wrong with our leaders? Why do they still withhold information? Why do they still withhold the truth about this enemy, making us and the citizens at risk? We must change the hearts and minds of the leaders in Washington and the high-ups in the military, or we must see that they are removed. And by the way, we are not here today to tear down the military. If a patient has a tumor, you want to remove the tumor to save the patient. I am not the man to remove the tumor, the disease from the military. But I'll tell you who is: the American citizens. We as Americans can do this, and it's going to be up to us to save our military. And we've heard Mrs. Clinton's statement about Benghazi. What difference at this point does it make? Well, on 9/11, 2001, there were 40 Americans on Flight 93 who gave their lives. What difference at this point does it really make? Well, I'll tell you what difference it makes. The Capitol building is still standing because 40 American citizens gave their lives. In the 1950s, Americans, tens of thousands of Americans, went overseas to fight communism. What difference does it make at this point? I'll tell you what difference it makes. Men and women all over the world, in places where our men have shed their blood for this republic, are not living under communism today. World War I and World War II, hundreds of thousands of Americans went abroad and around the world to fight for freedom.
It would be fair to say that before our son's death, Billy and I thought that we understood the severity that we faced as a nation under this current administration. But after his death, we began searching for answers, as Billy told you already. And as we searched, we became tragically aware that perhaps the cruelest, most deceitful acts of this administration have been perpetrated against the very ones fighting and dying to protect and defend it. We found that on the night our son and 29 other brave, fearless American warriors were shot out of the sky on a mission to capture a high-value target in the Tangi River Valley of Afghanistan, we learned that this valley was an incredibly hostile territory which our military had cleared on 7 prior occasions and then turned back over to the Afghanis, who could not maintain its stability. We learned that night that the mission was so dangerous that it had to be authorized out of theater, but even then the following took place. The most elite warriors in our nation's history, the now unfortunately not so secret SEAL Team 6, were flown into battle, as Billy said that night, on a CH-47D Chinook chopper rather than the Special Forces aviation that these men trained with throughout their entire careers. Even more insulting, this conventional airframe that these 30 Americans were forced to do battle in that night was built in the early 1960s and last retrofitted in 1985. We demand to know who made the call to send our sons into hostile territory where evidence proves a shoot-down attempt had been in full force for weeks, in less than adequate, antiquated airframes documented to be in very poor condition. We also demand to know who made the call to mix conventional aircraft and forces with special warfare operations. In our search, we also discovered that Extortion 17 entered the battle zone that night completely unescorted, with no pre-assault fire, paving the way for that school bus, if you will, to make its slow, contemplated landing in that pitch-black hostile territory, a territory which had been engaged in a military battle for 3.5 hours. According to military records. We were also told that the entire valley that night, before that entrance of that chopper, was in a heightened state of alert. So why were they unescorted? That's a question we still have no answers for. It was standard protocol, but it didn't happen. Why was there no pre-assault fire? We were told as families that because pre-assault fire damages our efforts to win the hearts and minds of our enemy. So in other words, the hearts and minds of our enemy are more valuable to this government than my son's blood. This is submission. And the cost of that submission on August 6th was my only son and these other people's children, as well as 26 others who aren't represented here today. Perhaps the most disturbing piece of evidence that Billy and I came across in our search for truth was uncovering the fact that the Afghan National Army, the Afghan National Police, and the Afghan Security Ministry have been and still are involved in the planning of every single stage of every single special operation that takes place in that country. And yes, these plans include flight routes and landing zones. We are well aware that these agencies have been infiltrated. They actually brag about it. Yet our strategy does not change. In turn, we've been left with a lot of unanswered questions, and I'm just going to name 4 very quickly. Where did the intel come from that night that led us to believe Kari Tahir was actually in the Tangi River Valley? 2, the operation was spun up with such urgency that many mistakes were made. So I ask, what was the urgency of the operation that night? No one interviewed in the 1,250 pages of documentation we have can answer that question.
You're listening to Awake Radio, straight talk for the awake and aware.
would love to welcome Mr. Charles Strange.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing
Charles
great.
Strange.
I'm
the Gold Star father of Michael Strange.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about your son?
Sure. Michael Strange was my son. He was in the U.S. Navy. We're from Philadelphia. We used to run the Rocky Steps before we went in the Navy. And Michael was killed with 29 other brave men and Bart the Warrior Dog, August 6, 2011, in a helicopter called Extortion 17. It was the biggest loss of life in the Iraq and Afghan war, and it was the biggest loss in any war in the history of America. 22 guys from the Dev Group. Michael was part of Elite SEAL Team 6, Gold Team. He was a team leader. He was from the Dev Group. They mixed the SEALs and the Devs to make the most elite. And he was killed 93 days after the Bin Laden raid.
And you know, you got to see him in between for a short leave or something, and he seemed really upset and out of sorts. It was different than any other time, you said. Do you remember that leave?
Sure. He came home after May of 2011 after the LBL supposedly raid, and came home in June. It was his birthday. He's coming up on his birthday again, June 6th. And for the first time in almost 8 years, he grabbed me by the bicep and he said, "Dad, I got a will." And he did that 3 times. And I said, "What are you talking about, Michael?"
He was a young man, you know. How old was he at that time?
25.
25 and thinking about writing a will. Wow. Did he say
And what
why?
was different is he was with SEAL Team 6 for 4 years. And every mission they go on, they sign a will, but he never ever talked about it. So something was up, and he grabbed me 3 times, and then grabbed me by the arm and said, "Dad, you won't believe what's going on in this country." And a few of the other guys from that elite team did some things different, saying goodbye in June. One guy used to say, "Dad, don't drink all the beer." This time he put his hands on his dad's shoulders and thanked him for the way he raised him. And one guy called his family, told him to take down all social media, nothing about being with the SEALs. And yeah, it was, they knew somebody was leaking something somewhere. Michael left Philadelphia 4 days early.
Because, you know, these guys were so incredible. The warriors, actually. And they had been trained. And one thing I heard that you had said was, you know, they took this serious. If there was a mission or a confidential thing going on, they didn't discuss this with family. They didn't, you know, go out. This was, you know, this was very serious to them, and they were amazing at their jobs. So something clearly that they had discussed with each other, who basically they could say anything to, as, you know, that one little group. They had already discussed this, it seems, before they had come
And
home.
I think the big worry was May 2nd, our Vice President, Joe Biden, at the Ritz-Carlton in Delaware, announced that our elite Navy SEAL team killed Bin Laden. So that put a mark on my son's back.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, the President announced it. Yeah, nobody ever heard of SEAL Team 6 before that. You know?
That really does. It just painted a big target. Oh my gosh, you know, someone who doesn't understand what's going on, or anyone that did understand what was going on would never do that. That's a little odd. That's very odd.
Yes. Something's wrong, you know? Something's wrong, and, you know, August 6th, 2011, the worst day of my life. And when they came knocking at the door and told us about the helicopter, and first they didn't know what happened. Then they said it was an RPG, and then they told us he had to be cremated because the helicopter blew up 3 times. And 4 months after so he figured he was already cremated, and the way they put it, 4 months later, I called Dover and asked for a copy of the autopsy report, and they sent me a report, and they sent me a disc, and I'm looking at the report, and there's no smoke in his lungs. His spleen's okay, no broken ribs. And my wife, Michael's stepmom's looking at the disc, and I said to her, pretty bad? She goes, well. I said, well. And there was Michael laying. The only thing bad about Michael was his ankle. You could see the hair on his arms. He wasn't burned at all. And it looked like he had a gun in his hand.
You had seen pictures of him, and he wasn't burnt at all. And so that must have really made you just, oh God, as a parent, I hope I can hold this together. I'm so sorry for your loss. Oh dear God. So now you're wondering about, oh geez, I can just imagine not being able to think straight because there's so many questions now coming. They just went ahead and just cremated these boys.
Right. And then October 2011, they called the parents down to Dam Neck. And a guy by the name of General Colt, Jeffrey Colt, Brigadier General Jeffrey Colt, did the investigation over there in Afghanistan with like 30 people. And October, they call us down, and we're in like an auditorium, like a movie theater, and there's all the bigwigs are there. And he's telling us about what happened. So I raised my hand. I said, can I have a copy of the after-action report? And he stops, and he's walking back and forth. He goes, it's in the book, sir. I said, can I have a copy of, about the RPG? I said, how do you know it wasn't a man-pad? Oh, yeah, it's in the book, sir. So I said, well, what happened to the black box, which is really orange? And he raised his hands and he said, a flash flood came and washed it away. That's what he said. A flash flood came and washed it away.
When they've gotten them out of the ocean before. Oh, my gosh.
Right. They find them things, hundreds of miles deep in the ocean. And I get home with this book. It's in a folder, and I open up the book, and there's no ink. There's no, you can't read it. It's blank. And I called up the command. I said, yo, man, I said, I can't read this. There's no ink in it. And he said, we got a lot of complaints about that. I said, all right, send me another one. He said, we can't. We burned it. I said, you burned it?
Oh, my gosh.
And then they had a disc in there, which one of the parents told me they were going to ask for the disc back. So I put the disc in, and 100 little blocks pop up, little black boxes. And you click it, you click it, you click it, and finally it opens up on the third click, and you can read like 3 sentences, but you can't read it. It's blurry. And my wife has been by my side the whole time and helping me get out of bed and with everything else, and she figured out how to download it and print the 1,300 pages out.
Brilliant.
And it was a setup. The Taliban had hundreds of people there. It says, General Colt asked the guy, he says, the air guy, ATF guy, what was the Tanzine Valley like? What was the assessment? And he says, well, sir, May 10th, 2011, 100 Taliban are coming from the blank Providence to the Tanzine Valley to shoot down the coalition force. They knew. They knew in May. And it's all documented with these 1,300 pages. After the Taliban supposedly took them down, they're bragging over the internet a half hour after the helicopter went down. They just killed SEAL Team 6. How'd they know it was SEAL Team 6? Right?
Oh, my gosh. Your
How'd they know who was
hands
in
must
that
have been just
helicopter?
shaking, and the fury, and the sadness as you go through this.
Me and my wife been to Washington. We've been down to Washington probably about 17 times, banging on doors, and and we have the information, and we've been trying to get answers. And in August, when the bodies came into Dover, the president came up to me, and he put his hands on my shoulders. He said, "Michael changed the way America lived." And I grabbed the president by the shoulders, and I said, "I don't need to know about my son. I need to know what happened." And I was crying, and Secret Service guys grabbed me, and, and then the president wanted to give me a hug, and I whispered in his ear, "It's going to be a congressional inquiry." And he whispered back, "Mr. Strange, we're going to look into this very, very, very deep." And that was August 25th, 2011. I haven't heard nothing.
Is that when you wiped your nose on this jacket?
Yeah. I was crying, snot's coming down. He went to give me a hug. I wiped the snot on his jacket, and I whispered in his ear, "I need somebody's got to be held accountable here." And
yeah,
that's also right around the time we got involved with Larry Klayman, our lawyer, and a bunch of the families. We had a national press conference. If you go to YouTube, you put parents of SEAL Team 6, and we had a press conference in Washington with General Boykin, Admiral Ace Lyons, Alan West, Benjamin.
May 9th, 2013, and at the National Press Club. Wow, so that must have been very emotional. Did all the team members' parents get to come, and families?
No, some of the parents are afraid to talk. What happened to me is when my wife figured out how to download the disc, my computer went crazy. And I was on a weekend retreat with a group called Vets Journey Home down in Elkton, Maryland, trying to do some healing with some vets and a couple therapists. And this one guy, he was in Iraq twice, and he actually works on computers now. And I had his number. We all changed numbers at the weekend retreat. And when my computer was going crazy, I called him up. His name's Dave, and he'll be very willing to come on your show. And he tried to fix it from his house down south. And he said, "Well, you're going to have to bring it down." So me and my wife jumped in the car. We stayed the night down there at his house. But when I brought the computer in, this guy works for one of the biggest computer companies in the world. He's got 253 certificates. I didn't know that at the time. And he opens up my computer. He said, Oh my God, Charlie, what they got in here, they didn't even come out with yet." And what he did is, there's he has it's 12numbers.gov, 16 numbers. It goes to somewhere in Maryland. I believe it's called the CIA. Oh, yeah, and it's all documented. And he's our witness. That's when we won we brought a case against the NSA and the government. And we won November 18th with Judge Leon.
Congratulations. I'm so happy to hear that. I didn't hear that you actually won, so congratulations. I know it's a small thing, but it shows people know that there's this is messed up. I can say messed up on the radio. Yeah. But that's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking something far worse.
Right. And we won the second time. They appealed it. And we won again. And actually the president talked about it before he went on one of his vacations on national TV about the NSA and the group of people that won in the courts. So what they're trying to do now is make it go through the circuit courts. And my lawyer, Larry Klayman, just filed to go right to the Supreme Court. We won twice. They're just trying to delay it. We have all the proof about the computer. And my phone, I was getting text messages, 000 and then 001 on my phone. I'm out of my mind, you know what I mean? I cry every day thinking about my son. Or I get sad every day and angry. So finally I called Verizon. I said, "What's going on here?" I said, "I text back. These three numbers keep popping up and nothing comes back." And they go, "Well, there's no record of that." I said, "Well, who is it?" And they said, "You don't know who it is?" I said, "No." They said, "Well, somebody from the United States listening to your phone calls and somebody else from another country."
That's very scary.
Yep.
And from another country as well?
Yep.
Who all
So it's all documented.
Oh, my God.
I don't... Big Brother. They call it, I guess. I don't know. But what gets me is all I'm doing is asking questions, what happened to my son? And why are you going in my computer? Why are you tapping my phone? You know, why are you listening to me? All the information I have just about is from what they gave me, from the 1,300 pages.
It seems almost as a threat, as what you might call a soft threat. Have you gotten any threats other than that was clearly in my eyes threatening you? They wanted you to take it to someone. They wanted you to find out, hey, we're here, and in doing that, to scare you and silence you.
Well, a few months ago, my wife was on the computer, and she was ready to play one of them games on the computer, like Candy Crush or something like that. And we have no webcam. We have no camera on our computer. It's just a flat screen. They took her picture while she was sitting there. My china cabinet's in the back. She screams to me, "Yo, child, look at this." And it's what she was wearing, and it said FBI cybercrime unit. You will do 10 to 20 years in prison. And they were just letting us know, my lawyer said, that, you know, they're watching it. Just like my friend Dave said, the computer guy, he said, "Child, you can unplug your computer, and they're still watching you through it."
I did a show on that very thing. Someone that had worked in biometrics. He came on and he told us your computer doesn't have to be off for people to see you. Your television. You don't have to have a computer. Your television, your cable boxes, all of that, you can be seen whether the power's on or not. And that was scary to me. He thought it was scary too, and he decided to let different government officials know, and guess what? They knew. So, wow, that's really scary. And I just want to know, because my son was, and I'm not ever even saying this is the same thing, because your pain, I can't imagine. I don't even want to try. But my young son was vaccine damaged, really severely damaged. And at that moment, as I'm trying to find out why, what happened, the more I dug and the more I dug, the more I found out so many other things around me was wrong. It's kind of like an awakening. You open your eyes, you know. And is that what started happening to you as well as you're going through the death? You start questioning everything, you know?
Well, it goes right back to when he was home in June. He started talking about it well, and he was different and grabbing me. And then, you know, saying things like, "You wouldn't believe what goes on in this country, Dad." And then leaving 4 days early. And then when they come and tell me my son got killed, and the biggest loss of life ever in any war, 22 guys from Naval Special Warfare Development Group, the DEV group, and you know, and then all of a sudden this happens, that happens, and then with the 1,300 pages, then with my phone, I'm like, whoa, something's wrong here, man. I said, I want to, you know, I need another investigation on here. And I've been on probably 70 radio stations, television up here in Philadelphia, especially with the NSA, the camera guy for the local Philadelphia stations. He said, "I'm pretty good with computers. You mind if I look?" And that man stood there for 20 minutes. He said, "I can't believe that." Because my wife has the picture they took when she was sitting there. He said, "They came right through and took her picture." And, you know, it's Larry Klayman filed a whole bunch of things to try to, you know, keep Extortion 17. Please Google, I'm telling the audience, please Google Extortion 17. You can Google Larry Klayman, Charles Strange, and you'll see, and there's facts in there that, you know, that something is definitely wrong here. How did the Taliban know that who's on that helicopter? So with all my ranting and raving, 3 weeks ago I got a call, and I went to the Pentagon for a closed-door meeting with a guy named Gary Reed, and my wife knows the other names. And just me and her, and we had our questions written out.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
at this
they wouldn't let
point,
me bring my
I'd be
lawyer or
scared
nothing.
to shut the door with those guys and be in the same room.
Not if you lose a son or daughter. Nothing can hurt you now. I had to bury my son. I buried my father. I buried my friends. I buried my cousin. When you bury a daughter or a son, your whole life, the rest of your life. And I know people that, I've talked to hundreds of parents, whether it was a car accident or in the war, and you're never the same. I took my daughter to work today. She's 23. Michael always pops up, talk about the fun times, and then you miss some more. You talk about fishing, crabbing, talk about Michael did this, Michael did that, and then you get real sad, and then then you get real mad.
Absolutely. Yep. Yes. So you went to the Pentagon. Yeah.
They didn't have no answers. They never read the 1,300 pages. You know what he said? He said, I watched your press conference. I read a book one of the families put out, and I read the 25-page summary. This is that one of Chuck Hagel's right-hand man, Gary Reed. It goes Obama, Joe Biden, Chuck Hagel, Gary Reed.
Yeah.
How can't you read it? Or, he's probably lying. It's bigger than Benghazi. General David Petraeus, he left 10 days after my son gets killed, and they make him the head of the CIA, and then 10 months later, Benghazi happens. Where's his records at? Admiral Mike Mullen left. General Votel moved. Miller, all 4-star, all the month my son got killed. There's something wrong here, man. Where's that report at?
Yes, more like piracy and dead man tell no tales.
Right. Well, my wife's been in touch with Pat Tillman's dad, and another guy that helped them out was a guy by the name of Stan Goff. And they helped us with a couple little things, help us lead on the directions, and Larry Clayman and a lady by the name of Dina James, chief of staff. And we've been down there. We talked to Darrell Issa, Luke Gomer, Mike Fitzpatrick, Congressman Bob Brady from Pennsylvania. And it's so big, and it's such a hot top, So we entered the Pentagon. I said to the guy, Mr. Reed, look, I need another investigation here. Somebody's got to be held accountable. There's something wrong here. I don't want this to happen to somebody else's son or daughter. So that was 3 weeks ago. They wrote down all my questions. They didn't know. They didn't know I had 1,300 pages. When I said the Taliban were bragging over the internet a half hour after my son got killed. Well, you can read a lot of things in the newspaper, Mr. Strange. You can read. I said, no, sir. And I had some of the 1,300 pages. I said, here you go, Exhibit 63. Read that right there. Taliban with their names. It said they're bragging over the internet. I said to them, here, turn to the next page. They were hoping you send more troops in. There were so many Taliban there. And
nobody's read it. Do you believe that? I mean, maybe I believe nobody in Washington reads anything that they touch. Just about, and they have someone read it to them, or my gosh, because the helicopter that they were in, and I trained to fly, so when I saw that they were in this big, huge, what I would call, it's a Vietnam cattle carrier looking thing. This huge old pile of, oh my gosh.
The Chinook.
What on earth would they put this team into that and fly over that exact spot? Oh gosh, they knew.
It's a Chinook helicopter from 1960, refurbished in 1985.
This is not what this is not what these guys flew around in all the time. This is not what they were trained
I talked to
with.
Navy SEALs. My son was, I'm not saying that because he's my son, but this is what these weren't the best of the best. These were our best. That's what they told me. You know what I mean?
These were the best of the best. These were the elite, the best they had.
I mean, some of these guys were, but Michael was 2% body fat. He could run from, Philadelphia to Canada. with a bottle of Jameson's in his hand. You know what I mean? He was also very, very smart. He was a cryptologist. He was a code breaker. We didn't know Michael was that smart here in Philly. And they would give him news. Yeah, he was usually chasing girls and working out and drinking and being a big brother and, you know, watching over his little sisters. And
just like
brother.
everybody's son.
Right. They would give him a newspaper from New York, Boston, Texas, California. He'd go through their newspapers and he could see what terrorists were sending to their cells here in the United States.
And, oh my gosh,
Yep.
it's so amazing. That's the thing I want people to know when they listen to this, is that these are young men. They're not, you know, don't think of them so much as SEAL Team 6, which they were. They were warriors. They were the elite. They were the best of the best, and chosen because of that. But they were also somebody's son, somebody's brother. They like to kick back, and they like to tease their sister, and think of them as human beings, as your next door neighbor. Don't think of them as robots, you know, of war.
Right. Right. They were, you know, Michael liked to, we were at Arlington with some of the other parents one day, and I said, Michael liked to get naked when he's drinking his Jameson's, you know, goofing around. And the one guy says, me and my brother, we were turkey hunting, and we were leaning against a tree. We took a break. I looked over at him. He was naked. Then one of the wives came up.
Oh,
she goes, she said, 4 o'clock in the morning, I look out. He'd be in the pool swimming naked. And then the one wife said, they weren't SEAL Team 6. They were grade 6. You know what I mean? And
kind of funny because my youngest son swims naked, and the biggest thing is keeping his clothes on, so I can kind of go there.
Uh-huh.
I swear we'll have to visit him at a nudist colony one day. I don't know.
You know. So it's
men, you know.
Just like you said. They were, you know, and they fought for this country. Michael loved Philadelphia. He loved his family, his friends, and you know, he'd do it again. But he didn't know somebody was setting him up. He didn't know how high it went. You know, he didn't know somebody, you know, somebody set him up, and that was supposed to be on his side. Something, you know, it didn't help with the president and the vice president. Why'd they, you know, all of a sudden talk about SEAL Team 6 like that, you know? And all the leaks, and all of a sudden there's movies, books about SEAL Team 6, and so.
Oh, you know, and I believe somewhere it was meant for you to get to that CD or whatever was sent with those blank papers, basically blank papers. Either somebody had a heart and said this is wrong and helped you, or it was just by the grace of God that happened to show you, you know, those, so you could print that and get those details. And you know, that would be one thing. Okay, they're going into this zone that has been nothing but problems. They had just shot down a helicopter there within days, and they put these guys on this old ancient aircraft and send them over there. Did they, you know, somebody asked, of course they did, I'm a mom, I know somebody asked, what was the reason they had to take this particular helicopter there? Why was this vehicle chosen?
Right. And then for the rescue mission, for to go in the next day, they had 2 Black Hawks, they had Pathfinders, they had 140 men. How come if you're, you know, they were supposed to, first they said it was a rescue mission for the Rangers, right? The Rangers were in trouble. But in the 1,300 pages, and it came out in public from me speaking out and from people like you helping us and putting it out on the radio, the Rangers weren't in any trouble. So then they said they were after a guy named Quarry Tahir, and he was supposed to be a high mark level, like a Jack of Spades. So there was 47 Rangers there, and they sent 30 of our guys, And 8 Afghans were on that helicopter, too. There was 38 of them in the helicopter, which they don't, by the way, they don't know the names of the Afghans that were on the helicopter with my son.
But but everybody on the net knew your son was on there when
Right.
the thing was happening. Don't know the name.
So they're after Quarry Tahir. He moves to a different village the day before. He knew they were coming. How did he know? You know what I mean? There's something wrong here. And there were so many of them there, and then to do what they did, so they changed the story. It was a high-risk mission going after Quarry Tahir. It wasn't really that high of a mark. So you got 47 Rangers plus 30 other guys. After one guy, you know, into the Tanzine Valley. It's the Taliban stronghold. They seen Taliban on a rooftop with a tower, and somebody called in about that, and the Afghan administration said they were hanging crops at 2 o'clock in the morning. There was, in my 1,300 pages, yeah, there was a ton of them there, and then they were by the tree line. And then what my nightmare is, Michael jumped out of the helicopter. You know, they were only 50 feet from landing.
Yeah, you
And,
know he wasn't
fine.
incinerated. You know he got out.
Oh, I got the pictures. How come, you know, nobody came right in? Who didn't give him an order to go right in? Who sent him in? In a Chinook helicopter.
Yeah, and what happened to him?
Yeah.
That they had to cover it up by cremation. Why didn't they want his intact body to come to his family?
Yeah. So many unanswered questions. It's ridiculous. It's, you know. So it's, I mean, I can go on and on. Like, and I'm not military. I was never in the military. You know, you can't teach common sense. And what they didn't really expect was for me to speak out. They really just, well, this is what happened. And, you know, our government likes to say 2 + 2 is 5. What? 2 + 2 is 5. Now, most people in America go, okay, that's what they said. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what
Not Charlie Strange, not when you kill my son. I want to know what happened. I want to know who's going to be held accountable. You know?
My worst fear is that, as a mom, is that when those men loaded that helicopter, they knew they were going down. My worst fear is they got in there, they looked at each other, and they knew.
They knew something was up. You know? They knew that, they knew something was going on. And, but they heard that the other guys were in trouble. They must have told them that the Rangers were in trouble, blah, 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 blah. And then they must have switched it in the air that they were after this guy, Quarry Tahir. And then, you know, all of a sudden, they must have knew something was going on while they were in there. Because Michael jumped, there were about 12 of them jumped out. You know? So,
he was ready. You know he was. He was ready for
any
situation.
they would never.
And to
they
walk into that.
They would have never got him on the ground. Yep. Yeah. So, and these are young guys and fighting for our country and our freedoms, and you know, and this is the way we get treated. You hear everything that's going on with the VAs here in this country now. You know.
It's sad. It's sickening. So, the care.
That's why I can't thank you enough for having. I can't thank you enough for having me on the radio. I really appreciate it.
There's a foundation as well that I'd like you to share. All your links, everything. Let's get some, I hope I can lead some traffic over there.
We, after being out of my mind, and when I went through that vet's journey home down in Elkton, Maryland, where I met Dave, I said, man, we got to do something like this with the parents. And at Vet's Journey Home, they said, well, we'd love to help you with the parents, but we have so many guys coming home with PTSD. So I started a foundation. We had a michaelstrangefoundation.org, and I brought in about 14 parents, 15 volunteers, and 4 paid grief counselors. And 2 of the grief counselors are from Vets Journey Home. That's what they deal with the loss, tragic loss of a son or a daughter. And we do a healing weekend, and mainly the parents, we all talk. And with grief, you can draw it, you can scream about it, and what they do is role playing. And they do a timeline when Michael was born until the worst day of my life, and then they separate the men from the women, the brothers from the sisters, and we go have little breakout rooms. And like one guy held somebody like it was his son and said goodbye, and it's deep, it's brutal, but it helps. It helps that you don't end up in a funny farm. If you don't do something, you'll end up eating Xanax the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Or you'll end up. A lot of parents die. It was their only child. They hold on as much as they can, and 22 months later, we had a lady at ours. Her name's Christine Koch. Her son was Stephen Koch, a Marine over there. Taliban walked in with a vest bomb. They're from North Jersey. And Mrs. Koch had a 25-year-old daughter. She kept telling her mom, why you go to all them things? Stephen's coming home. Stephen's coming home. And 18 months later, the daughter killed herself. She left a note, I'm going to go be with my brother. And this daughter, she graduated from Rutgers University, bachelor's degree, 25 years old, beautiful. People don't hear about that, And our foundation, we reach out. I talk to Mrs. Koch, try to, like a lot of times, like I just, I'll be in the store, I'll see somebody that looks like Michael, or I hear kids talking about getting married. Michael didn't have a chance to get married, or I just, and all of a sudden you get real, real sad, and sometimes it's bad, man. So our foundation, we reach out. We reach out to the parents and the brothers and sisters, bring them in for a weekend. Everything's free. Michael Strange, we're a 501c3. We're having another one in November, the first week in November. Anybody that knows any Gold Star parents, brothers or sisters, cousin you lost, you can reach me through our foundation. The email goes to my email, and we bring you in for a weekend, and you meet other people so you know you ain't alone, So we try to do something.
Thank you so much for doing this, and in your grief. You're reaching out and helping so many, and that's what being selfless is. And say it again. How do they find the foundation?
michaelstrangefoundation.org and Michael Strange Facebook. We have if we go to YouTube, Michael Strange Foundation, you'll see a 3-minute video, and it's the parents that went through our first weekend. And they just say, they talk for like 30 seconds, go through each parent, and what they thought of a weekend retreat, how it helped them. And michaelstrangefoundation.org, and you can YouTube Michael Strange Foundation, 3-minute video, see some of the parents, a couple parents from SEAL Team 6 there, Jersey, Ohio. And we had 15 volunteers, and then we can also look for volunteers, to come and help out. We'll be in Wildwood, New Jersey, the first weekend in November. Probably go Thursday to Sunday. Starts Friday. But we need donations. We pay for the airfare. We pay for the gas. Pay for the food. Pay for the people to help clean up. And it costs about $15,000. We do a few things here in Philadelphia, try to raise some money. And we have PayPal on michaelstrangefoundation.org. We have some T-shirts for sale, and anything can help. We really, really need the help and support.
If you want your money to go somewhere for an amazing cause to help these people, they are everyday people like you and me. They work for a living. They don't have this money to travel, and their hearts have been ripped out. They are suffering from this terrible grief, and what goes along with it is, for people like Charles Strange, are the lies and the questions, and the suffering goes even deeper. So if you've got any extra change, you have something you want to help in your heart to do, this goes to help families get help that are suffering. And you'll never, no one will ever recover from this, but I would like to say it's a small thing to do. Your donation is doing a large, huge difference in somebody's life, so you know where it's going. The t-shirts are cool. Grab a t-shirt. Let people know that you're paying attention to what happens in this world, and that one life is too many. One life gone is too many. When it's our child, when it's anybody's child.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you
it's
keep in touch, don't you, with the families? Have you gotten close to any certain ones?
Oh yeah, sure. You got to talk. You got to talk. I talked to Doug Hamburger. His son was Patrick Hamburger. The Vaughns. Tracy. Her son was Chief Nick Knoll. Dan Robinson. His son was Heath, captain of SEAL Team 6. Other parents that went through the weekend. Tristan Smith. His dad's Grant. They live right outside of Pennsylvania. They came for the weekend. Yeah, you talk and, you know, like birthdays and holidays and, you know, like my friend, it's been 7 years. His son got killed in the IED. His other daughter just had a baby up in Connecticut, another granddaughter. He called me up. He said, I'm outside the house. He said, she's beautiful. My other son and daughter are there, relatives. He goes, but the whole time I'm thinking about, it just lingers. Where's Tristan at? His other son that died over there. It's you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, you know, everybody that worked and trained with him is now gone, aren't they? Or are there soldiers that had worked with him and met him that contact you and want to talk?
Well, there's a few. There's a few that still talk, but they sort of got reprimanded not to talk to me.
Oh, wow.
It's yeah. Don't talk to Mr. Strange. Yeah. So they know. You know what I mean? And then when you're in the military, you got to do what they say. You know what I mean? And a lot of them guys, a lot of them are going to talk, I'm sure, once they get out. But you know, they got to be careful. They got kids, and what happened to their friends there that day. You know. So
yes, and just with what's happened on your computer and that taking picture of your wife is so frightening. Has anything like that happened in the other families? Did they get surprises?
That's what. Yeah, that's what. That's why a lot of them don't talk to me. I mean, I went and met over the country some of the parents. They said they won't talk to me on the phone. They said, "Child, I can't talk to you on the phone. I got a business, and I'm afraid for my safety. I got other kids." You know, some of the parents got threatened. Don't go talk to Mr. Strange.
That's
some of the parents got threatened. Listen to this: that if they go with Mr. Strange, some of the guys had kids, that the grandkids won't get checks anymore.
Oh,
how rotten is that?
God.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And people think you're free
Don't
in
go.
this country.
Yeah.
Freedom of speech,
we
I
need
do
to
believe,
change,
is a
man.
thing of past. When you can't talk to a comrade or another grieving parent without somebody being threatened, this has got to change. This is not something small. This is huge, huge. This, you know, I think of pictures of a swastika when I hear statements like that. I can't talk to you. My grandkid won't go to college. I've been told. I've been let know.
Yeah. It's sad, man, what's going on here. We need help, man. You know?
Not right.
So it's,
yeah. But those several of you are kicking anyway. I admire you because I know it frightens me just to hear some of the things that you've said, your wife and you, your courage. I think every time they think they're pushing you down, you come up with even higher. They take and they try to shove
Yeah,
you
they
down,
weren't.
scare you, and you get up with a growl and get up and say, "Oh yeah, we'll take this." You don't scare easy.
Right.
I bet your son had a bit of that in him as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we didn't, Michael,
Family trait.
Michael, yeah, we don't, I had a kid come up to me, and he was a skinny kid with glasses, and he said kids used to pick on him in high school. And he said then Michael came down, and we take the kid to school back. Michael came down, and he said, anybody touches him again? And Michael wasn't that big in high school. He was a wiry son of a gun. Anybody messes with him, they're going to have to fight me. And that kid, he came up to me, his name's Rob, yeah, and Michael took him on senior week with him to Cancun. And Michael always stuck up for him, Mr. Strange. He stopped them guys from throwing my school bag around. And, yeah, that was,
A warrior of the true kind. You can be really smart as far as war stuff, and you can be really intelligent as far as the encryptic stuff. But having the heart of a
Right.
lion to walk over and say, this is wrong, is what he did. This is wrong. This isn't going to happen. I'm not going to stand here and let that happen. And then that's what you're doing. Not just in your case,
Thank
you're
you.
doing it for all of them. You're going, this is wrong. And I'm not going to stand here and be quiet about it.
Right. Yeah. Somebody has to be held accountable. 30 guys, who made the call? Who let? I want to see some of these guys' checking accounts and bank accounts, man. Something's wrong here, man. And then for all of them to leave the month after my son gets killed, and then the president's polls go through the roof after he announces Bin Laden gets killed, and he goes in again, He went from like 38% to 64% after he said he killed Bin Laden,
All propaganda, all enabled him. He didn't, I hate to say it, like chess pieces were moved in order to have a nice television story and a way to pump him up. Oh, that's sickening.
You got it. Yeah.
Just saying that turns my stomach.
Yeah.
I guess I know who you're
Yeah,
not
people
voting
can-
next term. With the rest of us, I don't think anybody that listens to this show has any.
I don't know. Is it an
any
election
love
or is it
lost. It's a farce. They put two people up. It doesn't matter which one wins. It doesn't matter where you vote. You go down there, you vote. Nobody looks at it, and they vote. Shoot, the last time they counted, my state and a whole nother state wasn't counted when they said he had won so graciously. Nobody around here had to even go down there. So yeah, in my personal opinion, it's a farce.
I'll let you keep this one. You can keep this one. It's not an election. It's a selection.
Exactly. Uh-huh.
And we ain't electing nobody. I think there's somebody a little bit higher with a lot more money than us. I think they're called, besides what I usually call them, but they, I think they're called the Rothschilds, and some of them people there
You hit
call
the
a shot.
nail
Know what I
on the
mean?
head. You hit.
I know.
know exactly what you mean, and I completely agree with you 100%. And a lot of this, did you know already before this horrendous tragedy happened? Or is this some of the stuff now that, like with my son, he was damaged, I start looking for things, all of a sudden I'm finding webs into, from pharmacy to government to little hand deals, people being placed in different positions to see, oh my God, my goodness, that dangerous things are let over the counter, and it just spilled into government and everything else. Is that how it happened to you, or or were you more awake than I was, about this deception they call, I call deception anyway, they call ruling or whatever.
Yeah, they call it psyops to bury the American people.
Absolutely.
They know what they're doing.
They do.
And people, it's sad, because they go on that we're vulnerable, and the American people, you want to believe. You know what I mean? You want to trust. We got the best country in the world, and now all of a sudden quite a while, but people ain't taking the blinders off. You don't want to believe that people would be like this, that try to dominate. You know what I'm saying? And what's going on?
Because it's all about money. It's all about greed.
Right.
It's not about the welfare of people. Who cares as long as they give us money?
It's about a country a little bit bigger than New Jersey.
Yep. Again, we are so on the same page.
Yeah.
It is. It has nothing to do with us and our freedom or our, and none of these elections do either. They choose two people, and by the end of it, no one had a say. They win either way, and it's just a big corporation, and oh gosh, the things that I find out, I've learned so much, and I know so little because I'm still learning about this every day. Something's got to give, and with you speaking up and not being hushed up, you're doing a service for everybody. I hope you know.
Same as you, hon. Same as you. I appreciate you, speaking up. Because now, after you just talked to me, you might have been you're on the Christmas card list, but now you're at the top after you talked to Charlie Strange about the NSA. Oh yeah, you'll see your phone. Every radio station I go on, all of a sudden they start getting them numbers pop up on the phone.
Yeah, it's let them go. You know what? It's just it's a part of this kind of job because we have just stopped listening to anything the mainstream media has to offer, because what it is a guide to what they want us to think, and we talk to real people in real situations and put that on air, and because we do that, we're under attack.
Right.
I can't call my brother, go on air and say exactly what happened to you. It's like, you remember the old TV commercial, E.F. Hutton said, and then everybody's got bending their ear to listen.
Yeah. 2020 called me twice. Twice. Wow. They're going to run, huge, right? 2020, they're all in, da-da-da-da. Then I didn't hear nothing. For 2 weeks, I called up and said, we still going forward. I sent you a lot of information. Now we're not allowed to handle it.
They're like, no,
no
way. We've had some... They had their hands smacked, so to speak.
Yep. Don't talk to Mr. Strange. So...
But you have been on different television shows. Have you been told what to say and what you can't say on anything, on any of these things?
No, but I've been edited.
Oh.
So, Rowan Scarborough from the Washington Post, he's done 3 articles, and I think he got smacked on the hand. And then he stopped. Actually, the Washington Post magazine just had an article about Larry Klayman this month. I think it was 2 weeks ago. Maybe it was April. A little something about him. But I'll get you in contact with Larry Klayman. He wrote a few books.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. And, get the word out there. We need all the help we can get. And I want to see what the Pentagon says. down there. Are they going to open it back up again? There was a battle of in 2009. It's called the Battle of Mantuna. I don't know exactly how to say that. 9 of our guys died, and they came up with a story, and then one father for them kept fighting and fighting and had it reopen. And finally, his fight, he got the answers that there was a setup on these 9 guys that the Afghans, actually administration, the guys we give billions of dollars to over there, set up his son and killed.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah. We have Larry filed against the Afghan administration, the Taliban. You know, the Taliban has its own government.
Yeah.
So, against the president over there, and we'll see what happens. The big thing is with the NSA, you know, them trying to put us through the circuit court and covering up what they're doing to everybody in America. They listen to everybody's phone call in America. It goes in your computer. You know? And then we still have 9/11, Boston bombing. We still have terrorists doing this and that in our country. You know? Don't listen to Charlie Strange. Listen to, you know, if they're coming from another country, why don't you listen to them for a little bit, you know? So,
you know, we're supposed to pay attention to you because, especially that you'd been threatened and things. Anything happens to you or any of your family or anybody, there's going to be, you know, we're watching. We're watching to make sure your family stays safe because, Lord, if we heard something happen, you know what we're thinking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I always like to say I never thought about killing myself. So, I got that on tape. You know, I got other kids. I took my daughter to work, dropped my granddaughter off at daycare.
Aww.
Took my other 2 granddaughters down the playground today. You know, and
you love life, and you've got a family to take care of, and so you're not the type anyway. But just so people know, that's not ever entered your mind. You're not going to lay down.
I gotta go pick up my other daughter. She's taking kickboxing tonight. 10th Friday in a row. I'll go pick her up. Yeah, they do meditation. Girl. I love it.
Oh,
yeah,
she's a little warrior.
So it's, you know, we'll do kickboxing, stop, get water ice, and come home and talk about, you know. And then, you know, I know Michael wants me to keep putting one foot in front of the other. I know he's on the other side. He shows me signs. I feel signs from him, either with a light switch going on and off or something like that, or a radio. It's pretty. I never, you know, I know the other side. So there's a thin line between here and there, and
there is. I used to do a radio show, and I know for a fact. I've heard the voices. So I totally believe in what you just said.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So,
keep working.
But, you know, Mike.
Yeah, stay safe.
Thank you so much. MichaelStrangeFoundation.org. We need donations. If you guys, anybody, we're in New Jersey, first weekend of November. Volunteers don't have to pay none. Just hand out the Kleenex and help the parents. You know what I mean? We do a lot of crying, screaming, and but by Sunday we're all smiling, and we know our sons and daughters are in a better place, and it's very helpful. You know, but we need support. We're 501c3. Everything's tax deductible. All proceeds go to gas and helping out other families, and you know, so we appreciate it.
Please join me and donate whatever you can to help this organization. Thank you so much. I'll be in touch with you. Thank you, Mr. Strait.
All right. Thank you for the interview. I appreciate it. I appreciate what you're doing. God bless.
God bless. Goodbye. That's it. That's the end of Paula Live.
You're listening to Awake Radio. Straight talk for the awake and aware.